Welcome to Get After It with Nashy, brought to you by Ace Property Management and Sales.
How's it going, sir? How are you?
Very well. I'm very well. Good to see you.
Great to see you as well. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Just let me get all these bits and pieces sorted. Everything good your end? I'm sure you're pretty used to these things with everything that's been going on with COVID and Zoom calls and...
Oh, man. Yeah, my bedroom. This is my bedroom and my office. So,
yeah, no, everyone's kind of got this home setup now, don't they?
Oh, yeah, 100%. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm the same. I say to everybody, I'm very honest about it. I'm now, this studio that I'm in is my kid's playroom.
Perfect.
It's just the way we have to sort of evolve it. And I had to close up my studio back when COVID hit and lockdown came in. And, you know, we all know the rest of the story. It's just been kind of getting on with it and reaching out around the world and seeing who's here to talk and take conversations where they go. It's been a bit nuts.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, that's hilarious. You got the kids' room. I can relate. You have three kids as well, correct?
Yeah, I've got three, and I think that's. I mean, it's funny, these relationships, these Instagram friendships that build. I mean, I watch you and your family and your kids, and it cracks me up. And I was looking through tonight that one when is it your little boy that bounces on the side of the swimming pool, the paddling pool in the garden?
Yeah, it's one of them. I can't even keep up.
That's just the way dad life is, isn't it? You've got three, and what are the ages of your three?
So we got 3, 2, and 1.
3, 2. Oh, right. You're younger than me. 3, 2, and 1. That's a handful.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's 3.5, 2.5, 1.5. But yeah, it's getting full benefit around here. It's luckily everybody's napping right now, except my oldest. But kind of a good time right now to be doing this.
Yeah. So I've got 7, 5, and 4. Girl, boy, boy. So a little bit ahead of you, but I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know, this dad life. You inspire me on your posts because your training is consistent and it's full on. You are all in every time you post and you train. I'm sweating right now because having you on this show motivated me to get out tonight because I've been slacking. I've been letting excuses in. I've been just not my usual high tempo or consistent.
Yeah.
And I made a bit of a deal with myself. And then what do? You put it on social media. I made myself accountable. I'll be back out tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. and just try and get that discipline back. Get that discipline that I've been lacking. But watching you and what you do and your guys and your team, it's awesome. I love it.
I mean, that's the thing about accountability. I mean, the hardest thing in the world is to have self-accountability. And so whether you're doing it on social media, putting out so other people can hold you accountable, or like family's the big one for me is my wife holds me accountable. Plus my gym is 7 steps that way. And so I can't really make excuses when I'm like, okay, I need to go right there. And so I cut out the middleman here. So there's no excuses allowed around here.
I like to be like that, but it slips in every now and again. I talk about it. I'm honest about it because I think there's a lot to be said about. I'm one myself. I'm a normal guy. I haven't been to the sort of the depth of fitness that you have with the Marine Corps and what you've been through, but pro athletes and all these sorts of things. And I kind of try to put it out there for the average guy that I put a lot of pressure on myself, but I need guys like you out there doing your thing. And there's girls out there, there's athletes, there's other mums and dads that just getting up consistently and keeping going. It just keeps someone like me on the path. Gets me back in line, gets me back where I need to be, and then I'll end up training with one of them, or I'll do some fitness, or I'll take the podcast somewhere. You get in their world, you physically get with them. I think it's so important that people you have around you, or even on social media, that the people that
I think a lot of times people look at social media as kind of a negative connotation towards it. But like you said, like I have my family here, and so I really don't get a lot outside of this. And so I look to social media, and for me as well, like it gives me insight to like what other people are going through. Because I mean, as much as I can like have excuses like, oh, well, all 3 of my kids, they didn't sleep and I didn't get much sleep, but like you get a vision of like what you're going through with other people. I'm like, I really don't have much to complain about. Like I'm healthy, I'm happy. Yeah, I didn't get much sleep, but a lot of people out there would like beg for like what I have going on right now. And so that social media aspect, I think is pretty cool to be like, man, like I don't have a lot to make excuses about today in comparison to what other people got going on.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to think, and it's true. It's true. If you can get your mindset into that, and also taking stock of the things that you've, I think it's important. I don't do enough to realize what you've actually got instead of still striving or beating yourself up because you've not got something. Or you think you can't run that far. Do what you can and keep going.
Yeah, 100%.
I've seen you've got some new kit in the gym recently. What have you got now? You've got the full setup.
Oh man, I got the full like industrial size CrossFit rig. So I got that. I got the ski. I got the bike. I got the rower. I got everything I need, and so it's perfect.
And are you good putting yourself through it, or do you always have a buddy come over and train with you, or what are you like when you're in the gym? You can get there, you can get your shoes on, but what are you like when you get started? Can you push yourself as far as you want to go?
So I have this like really bad quality that if I have like a crappy workout, like if I'm like middle of the way through and I have a crappy one, I'm like, and I'll just like cut it and I'll like finish right then and there and I'll leave. If I'm not like putting 100% effort in, like, why am I wasting my time? And I get it. Like some people are like, well, something's better than nothing, but I'd rather like reattack and then go in like today, if I went in this morning and it wasn't really working. And so like, nope, I'm done. So I left. And so now tonight I got to go back after this. I'm going to go back in, I'm going to redo it the correct way and give it 100%. And then it makes me feel good about my workouts rather than like going through the motions, because I don't see any progress when I go that way.
Yeah, sometimes you can spend too long doing nothing. Absolutely. Where are you based? Where are you based at the moment?
So I am up in Sacramento, California. So I'm about 30 minutes north of there. Little rural town called Lincoln. It's nice. It's far enough away from the big city and far enough away from the crazies out in California. California's taking a turn for the worse these days.
Are you familiar with the event, The World's Strongest Man? Because that was just in Sacramento.
Yes, sir.
And 2 weeks ago, I was with Tom Stoltman and Luke Stoltman.
Yep.
Tom, who
I was just listening to that one before I got on this. It's a small
really?
world.
Yeah, they had the best time, and obviously Tom, Scotsman, world's strongest man. I mean, it's awesome.
I know, it's crazy.
Who's your guy, Brian Shaw? He's Brian Shaw, one of the greatest of all time, and Tom won the title competing against him in the final Atlas Stones. It was incredible. But that's a show that's only shown at Christmas time over here. So we're all
really? Okay.
we're all having to wait until Christmas time to see Tom lift the title, but that's one of these things. I need to ask you, Sacramento, California, have you got mountain lions in your district? What have you got animals wise?
Yeah, I know they're here. I haven't really seen any lately. If you go about 20 minutes north, you're getting a little bit of everything. My grandmother lives up north about 40 minutes, and she'll have like dead deer on the property all the time for mountain lions or whatever it may be. So we're close enough to the action around here to watch out for the little ones straying off too far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast a lot, and obviously he's moved to Texas now, but he talks about the mountain lions, and obviously he's involved in hunting and all these sorts of things. It just like where I am, on the outskirts of Edinburgh in Scotland, there's not anything here that is really a threat on wildlife or anything like that. Here in mountain lions and all the other bits and pieces, and you guys sort of are threats, let alone crazies walking up and down the street that you've got to worry about. You've got mountain lions on your property, so dogs and all sorts of things can't be safe walking the streets in these areas.
No, yeah, it's we got the mountain lions, the rattlesnakes, all the bugs you can want. It's definitely got to keep a watchful eye.
That's it. What about yourself? What are you into away from fitness? I know we'll get into Echelon Front and that, but you podcasts and you read a lot. What sort of stuff do you study?
Study wise, so I follow a lot of like Joko, obviously being my boss, the Joko podcast. So a lot of books go from that, a lot of military based stuff, just learning the ways that how we've evolved as a culture in terms of military. It's just fascinating to see like where we were and where we are now, and just evolutions that we've made as a country and as humanity in general. And so when I do have free time, I like to read, and I often make the excuse that I don't have a lot of free time just with the crazies in the other room. But for me, a lot of it is I'm gone so much. So last month I was home about 3 or 4 days, like physically at my house. And so when I do come home, I'm always trying to get out of the house with the kids, go on a vacation, go hiking, go to the beach, whatever it may be. And that's the nice thing about California is I'm an hour and a half from the beach, an hour and a half from the snow, hour and a half from wherever I want to go. So whenever I get home, like we just picked up and went to Monterey, which is 4 hours south. They have like one of the nicest aquariums I've ever been to. And yeah, it was rough, the 4 hour drive, but the kids just being able to go in there, just it makes it all that crappy drive worth it.
Kids, they have a way of making what should be a simple task ridiculously hard, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it was about like a 2.5 hour drive, which turned into a 4.5 hour drive, but
57 P stops later. One of them's hungry, this, that, and the other. One of them's wet themselves. Oh, mate.
it's always something.
We've been there. We went up north to the north of Scotland a couple of weeks ago, and we had that. It was a long drive, 5 hour drive, but we had to split. It took a day. It took a day to get there, just with stops and oh, she's crying now, he's crying. You change seats, stop fighting. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It's dad life, and it's funny. There's a question I wrote down. I'll ask you anyway, but it's weighing up that what's tougher, military life, dad life, military life. You answer me that one. They both got different challenges, don't they?
Yeah, but they also have a lot of similarities. I mean, in the military too. For me, in my time when I got promoted into leadership positions, like I mean, essentially, you're in charge of younger people. So I was 24, 25 in charge of 18-year-olds, and sadly enough, an 18-year-old Marine is not much better than a 6 or 8-year-old. Definitely have their both unique challenges. You obviously deal with maturity issues, kids coming to their own, but I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of similarities. That's a funny question to think about, because I can see how like so many of those issues kind of align with each other.
It's something I've heard you talk about before. Is it detachment? The way that you sometimes you talk about it in the military and the working environment, but even as a father, when the kids are playing up or kicking off, I've heard you say it before that like you got to remember he's 4 years old. This is the first time he's ever done this. It's a mistake, and it's dad's got to calm down. Dad's got to back off here and maybe not lose it because they've done something that you didn't think they could do, or something that's bad. Deep down, you know it's bad, but you're actually quite proud of them.
Yeah. So we at Echelon Front, we talk about, so detachment is just like when you're getting overwhelmed or there's a lot of chaos going on. It's just like whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, it's like taking that step back, just orientating your bearings, like figure out what's going on, then making a decision. And as much as like we get to talk to clients, talk to corporations throughout the world, like all this stuff directly applies to back home as well. And so detachment, like we always say, detachment is a superpower because it's extremely hard to do because you're emotionally tied to whatever is going on. Specifically at home as well, I'm emotionally invested in my family. And so when I see my middle child, who is my crazy one, when he does something off the rails, I like have to bite my tongue. I leave the room because me and him he's very similar to me in like an anger aspect. And so I have to detach. I have to leave the room. I gotta go away from the situation so I don't make an emotionally rash decision. Which is you never really make a good emotional decision. And so I got to take the emotion out of it, leave the room, let my emotionally stable wife kind of handle that situation while I de-escalate somewhere else.
You head straight to that gym.
Exactly.
Have you got a punch bag in the gym?
No, I don't, but it's on the list. I have a list, which my wife does not really like because it's never ending process in there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that the old dad life. It's something I love to talk about, and I like to put out the sort of the get after it family, what we do as a family, throwing the kids in the water, getting them cold, getting them uncomfortable, and it's something that I think it's only going to benefit them. You know, getting the kids to exposed as much as they can. Do you push your kids? I know they're so young still, but do you take them into environments that maybe they wouldn't be accustomed to, something new, challenge them?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to. They're still relatively young. My 3-year-old, his name's Bear. And so last year I was doing this fitness thing called 75 Hard. It's like 75 days it's like 2 workouts a day. It's a bunch of stuff in there. But part of the program is, in like the third phase of it, you have to do a 5-minute cold shower. And so I procrastinate and I have to do this at the end of the day rather than a good time. And so it's already cold out. This was in the winter. And sometimes I try to take my oldest in there. And at first I was like a little hesitant. So I was like, this can't be good for him. But I think like overcoming some of these challenges, and I'm not putting him in there for 15 minutes, but I'm like letting him embrace the cold. letting him get uncomfortable with these situations, because majority of the time I'm setting him up for success with giving every tool, everything that he needs. And if that's always the case, like, he's never going to learn. And so sometimes I do throw the curveball. Sometimes I put him in a position where he has to make a decision on his own and learn from it. And I'm seeing that more and more today than I did in the past, just because age wise. But I definitely think it's beneficial to let them kind of make their own decisions, have their successes, have their failures, and put them in uncomfortable positions to where they can achieve and kind of have this sense of victory in overcoming kind of a hard situation.
Have you ever seen the movie, the Matt Damon movie, We Bought a Zoo? You ever seen that?
Yes, sir.
You see, there's a bit in that where he was it brave, be brave for 20 seconds. You remember that bit? That's what we say to our kids, is be brave for 5 seconds. And that's usually when they're about to jump into cold water or climb something that they probably shouldn't be climbing, or do something that they're reluctant to do. We use that regularly. Be brave for 5 seconds. They've started saying it to each other. You know, they started saying it to each other, and we hear them saying it. And Skylar, she'll say it to Hunter, and Rocky, he's my crazy. My youngest is my crazy. Rocky, and he doesn't really need to say it. He's usually all in everything. But the other two, the older two, they use it. They say it, and it works. And it's funny. It's these little things that I picked it up in a movie, and I just repeated it and repeated it and repeated it, and it starts to become something that they use, which is nice to see. Things don't work every time, but hey, it's worth trying. It's worth trying. Did you see leaving the military? Did you think getting into the world you're in now of putting your military trained skills into the real world would be a path that you take?
No, I did not whatsoever. When I got out, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth of the military. And the reason is I got promoted at a young age, and I got to the point where a lot of the stuff I was doing was on the administrative side. So I'm doing a lot of paperwork. I'm not with the guys. I'm behind a desk, and that's not what I wanted to be doing. And I got to this point at an early age where I was like, there's no way I can do this for the next 15 years. And so I sadly got out. And then when I got out, I kind of wanted to wash my hands. I did want to go into law enforcement. My father has been a cop for the last 25 or so years, south of me in a place called Stockton, California. And that's all I remember as a kid, is seeing my dad pull up to my football practice in a police officer uniform, or him taking me to school, and I'm in the back of the squad car, and all the kids think it's super cool. And so that was my life growing up, is like, that's all I ever wanted to do. And even before the military, like, I never had intentions of joining the military. I wanted to play football. I wanted to go play in the NFL, and I wanted to be a cop. And so I was in backgrounds, going through the process of becoming a cop, and I actually blew out my knee in football. And I was really lost. I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, I can't do anything I ever wanted to do. I can't do it anymore. And so I was really lost. But luckily for me, I had influences, family and friends who were in the military at the time, and they're coming back from war and whatnot, and just seeing like what they're able to accomplish and listening to the stories that they're telling, it inspired me, this light bulb moment where I was like, this is what I need to do. This is like my new mission. And so that got me enlisted. I did my 5 years and got out. And then I wanted to go back on the law enforcement path. I went to school right when I got out. So I went to Arizona State University, got my degree. And then I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Sadly enough, getting into law enforcement kind of takes a long time. So I was in backgrounds for about 6 months, just going through the process. I was doing construction. We were doing demolition of burned down buildings, using my skills to the utmost there. And one of the guys on our team, JP, I've known him my whole life. And he tried to get me to come out to see Echelon Front, to see the training. And me being 25, 26 years old, I kind of brushed it off, sadly enough. And this happened actually multiple times. He came to Arizona for an Echelon Front gig, and I was there, and I went to dinner with him, and he's talking about everything that he's doing. And I'm like, look, Navy SEAL, I'm just a Marine. Like, there's no correlation here. I've known you. This is cool. He's like, no, you should really come out to the training. He gave me the book, Extreme Ownership. If you know anything about Marines, we don't really read too good. So I definitely didn't read it at first. And then in late 2018, I came out to my first Echelon Front actual thing, an FTX, so our field training exercise. And I came out, and just being there for a day, I was like, crap, like I really screwed up, and I did everything I could to just be part of the team in any little facet of the program. And somehow, some way, I finagled my way in there and became part of the FTX program and came full bore 2019 part of the team.
Yeah. So, what was your mindset? You left the military and you were pleased to be out. You didn't want to have anything else to do with it. Were you in a dark place, or were you in a pretty positive place that you'd got out and you could do new things now?
Yeah, I guess I should use my words a little more carefully. I guess when I got out, I didn't think I'd do anything ever military related again. I know law enforcement and military kind of they coexist in a sense, some of the same principles here. But as far as anything like militaristic or like lessons learned from my experience, I really didn't know that was out there. I was a little naive to kind of the business world of ex-military and veteran-owned businesses. And it wasn't until I saw like corporations listen to guys from our team talk that they're able to relate military experiences to what businesses go through every day, and just to see the connections in real time, I was like, wow, like this actually makes sense. I mean, in a sense, the military is just a big corporation, different branches, different places all over the world. And so being able to see that connection, I was like, okay, like this actually makes sense. I can use what I learned. I can use what I did right, what I did wrong, and actually use it to my benefit to share my experiences with people like yourself, people throughout the world that are struggling through the same kind of leadership situations that I went through in the military.
Yeah. And did you climb through the ranks in the military quite quick, or what was it like for you through your time?
Yeah, so I graduated first in my class. So our initial training is 3 months. So I was number one in my class there, and then I got to E5, so a sergeant in the Marine Corps, in about 3.5 years. And so I would say it was relatively quickly. It was a lot of promotional boards, so you can get meritoriously promoted. You go against your peers, and you can get promoted that way. And so, and that was a little tough for me because, in a sense, like me and you were buddies, we're the same rank, we're the same age, and then I get promoted. And so I think the peer-to-peer leadership there, that was extremely hard for me because I really wanted to stay friends with these guys, but now I'm in charge of them. Like, where do I draw the line? I can't just drop the hammer. And so that was really tough. And that was like my whole time in was I was just leading my peers. I wasn't necessarily leading like the new wave, the new 18-year-olds. It was, hey, me and you have been buddies for 6 months. Now I'm in charge of you and you have to listen to me. And so that was a constant battle that I had to fight.
Did you lose a few friends? Did you lose trust of any of them, or were you always kind of able to sort of find a way through leadership of how to work with that individual, but that individual might need told slightly differently? How did you sort of work your way through
It
those?
definitely was, it definitely was a learning process. So initially it was so foreign and so new to me that I would like let people take advantage of the situation. Like, oh, he's my friend. I've known him for so long. Like I can get away with stuff. And it wasn't until people started to take advantage of my friendship in a negative way where they started showing up late. Excuse me. They'd show up late, or they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, in a sense, because they thought I would back them up just because we were friends. And so when that started to happen, like this is on the left end of the spectrum, I overcorrected and went far right. And now I'm just like laying the hammer, like, hey, no, like I'm in charge. Like we need to do it this way. And like this balance here, like I'm way far left, way far right, where I needed to be in the middle. And it took me a long time to gauge like, okay, both these are not working. Like I need to find some balance in the middle here. And eventually I got to that position, but it definitely took some trials, trials and failures of getting people on the right path.
And in the early days of your military career, were you good at taking orders? Were you good? What kind of kid were you? You disruptive? Were you do as you're told sort of kid? Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Or were you
As a kid, or in the
so
military?
as a kid? And then how did you mature into the military? Were you good at taking orders?
Yeah. So my dad, very alpha type person, coming from the police background, and her and my mom, they're very like yin and yang. My mom's very emotional, very passive, doesn't like confrontation, and my dad is he's the hammer. He likes to lay it down. And so I was a very quiet kid. I guess you could say reserved until I got to know you. There wasn't a whole lot going on. I'd be in the back until I was comfortable knowing like, hey, you're on my team, you're on my side. And then I get to know you. And I've, as a young kid, like I'm still that way today. I'm very reserved. I never had any problems kind of taking orders. I guess in high school, I was a little more, I wouldn't say ruthless, just disruptive. That's a good word that you described. And more of that is because just of the situations I found in. I was a big athlete, and so being an athlete in high school, the whole jock thing definitely played to its advantages in terms of having a lot of friends, going to a lot of parties, where my mind wasn't exactly there. And so that definitely got me into trouble because I was like, hey, I'm 16. I know how this world works. I can do whatever I want. There's no repercussions for my actions. And that got me in trouble a couple of times, especially having a dad who's a cop, and I'm breaking the law a lot of this time here. And so that definitely came into play. But when I first went into the military, I like, especially in my initial 3 months training, I had like no intention of like being singled out to become a leader. Like there was a void, and someone was like, hey, go grab the guidon, which is like this big military flag that you hold up for the platoon. And I don't know what came over me, but I just went and grabbed it. And then I was like the leader of our platoon for that entire iteration. And then from there, it kind of played its way into my head in terms of like what leadership looks like, because like, look, your initial time in the military, like it's a lot of like, you do what you're told because of my rank's higher than yours. And that's the way it's going to be. Now I learn like when I'm in a leadership position, like I have some say in what goes on. And so I more or less like want to be a leader because I would have some say and I wouldn't necessarily be having to be told what to do all the time. And so that like, I really wanted to be in a leadership position every time that I got. And luckily enough for me, I found myself majority of the time in a leadership billet for my entire 5 years.
Yeah, and now that sort of out in the real world with Echelon Front, what services do you offer? Do you have leaders come to your events? Do you go into businesses and look at the leadership patterns and work out ways to develop companies and teams? How does it work?
Yes. Yeah. So it's all over. I mean, it traditionally has stemmed from, you go to echelonfront.com, you do an inquiry with kind of what your business is, what your goal, what your objective is. And then we have so many different paths for you and your team to take. So we just have like your traditional keynote, which is like an hour presentation on the laws of combat, which Joko and Leif started back when they were in the SEAL teams during the Battle of Ramadi. And so you have keynotes, you have workshops where we're actually doing some communication back and forth, diving into your problems. We have like a sustainment program, which is our LDAP, Leadership Development Alignment Program. And what that is it's not just I'm coming to you for this day. It's what can I do for 3 months, 6 months, a year in terms to build out like a proper program to get you guys on the right path. We have that as well. We have the FTX program, which I'm a part of, which is our field training exercise program. So it's everything that we take, but you put into a practical application. So it's hands-on learning. We're putting you through militaristic combat scenarios, a lot of stress-driven. You really get to see where you're at in terms of a leader, because we're not softballing you a lot of these scenarios where I'm bringing a bunch of ex-military guys and we're bringing it to you for a little bit to see where you stand. And then it allows you to see like, hey, yeah, I'm doing a capture kill mission against a guy, but because my plan was too complex, I failed. And then we directly relate that to like, hey, my planning in business is too complex. My team's not able to do what they do because it's overcomplicated. And so we're trying to connect the dots between this is what we know from the military. This is what we did in training. This is your business here. Like, where does it align? And we align on the battlefield there. And so those are just a couple options. There's a bunch of other stuff that Echelon Front has as well. But majority of the time, it's just corporations reaching out and we're trying to figure out what the best way we can to support them.
So that's like you could take an insurance company out of their comfort zone in their office and put them into your sort of battle scenario.
Yes, sir. I mean, you could think of any corporation you could ever think of in terms of like big oil industry, or you're talking like a CBD company, insurance, whatever, blue collar, white collar. There's no difference. We've seen it all. And the funny thing is too, is I was a little naive when corporations would come out. I'd be like, oh, this is like an electric company. These guys, like, they know how to work like this. It's going to be unique here. But the more we go about it, like, everyone has the same challenges here. And what we've come to know at Echelon Front is that leadership makes a difference here. So as much as everyone thinks that they have their own unique problems, which some of them, like the minute details may change, but majority of the time it just comes down to leadership and being able to get your team on board with the overall goal, mission, et cetera. And so it's fun to see everybody come in from a different background, different parts of the country. And like nowadays, we don't have just specific corporations coming to our FTXs. We have like an event we just had in San Diego last month where 30 individuals from wherever you want to come from. You can come by yourself with a team, etc. And so now you have 30 walks of life from all over the world, different experiences, different corporations, and we're putting them all on one team. And now they have to work together to overcome all these adversity and go through the scenario. So it's a good time. It's definitely my favorite part of Echelon Front, which I know I'm a little biased because I'm a part of it, but I love it.
Is there a sort of major common theme that you see leadership faults? You know, you'll see quite quickly, you'll identify, I know what's wrong here. Is there something that you see quite regularly, or is most scenarios completely different?
I would say most are completely different. But in terms of like, we always tie them back to the laws of combat. So that stems from Joko and Leif, Battle Ramadi, in terms of the book as well. So the laws of combat are cover and move, which is just relationships. Like I need to build relationships in order to have a better functioning team. Then you have simple, which majority of the time we're talking about communication. Like, am I properly communicating to my team? It needs to be in its simplest form that everybody understands. You have prioritize and execute, which is, can you handle 10 things at once? The answer is no. You got to prioritize what's number one and go down your list. Detachment always falls into there as well, because when things get chaotic, we emotionally react and make a bad call. And lastly is decentralized command, which is having the ability for everybody on your team to step up and lead. So all these scenarios that we do, like this last month in San Diego, you had 15 different scenarios over 2 days. And sometimes you're number one in charge, sometimes you're number 2, 3, 4, or sometimes you're just a shooter. You're just a guy with a gun and you're getting told what to do. And so you obviously have different leadership opportunities, leadership failures that you're going through on the day-to-day basis. But during all of that craziness, all 15 runs, all the issues can be tied back to those 4 laws that we talk about. And I guess that's the unique thing when I think about it, is every single problem here can be solved by those 4 things there.
You're away from your family a lot, but you must enjoy a little bit, because I see you and JP and all the guys training together, out having food together and all the kids. What's that sort of lifestyle like with the guys on the road? You're getting the work done, you're training hard, you're living life, and you're out with the boys. You know, that must be enjoyable. You want to be with your family, but at the same time, there's time with your boys, there's time with the guys. You're getting the work done, you're putting the effort in. Is it enjoyable on the road?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going out, you're working long days, you're getting a badass workout, and then we're eating steaks after. And it's as closest to the military as I can get, because majority of the time, everybody that's coming out to support, at least on the FTX team, is ex-military or current military or current law enforcement. And so it's just like being back in the platoon. Like everybody's joking around, having fun. And then when the time comes, like we know when to turn that switch and to get after it. And so, and as much as I said before, like I wanted to get out of the military, like I still miss it. Like I still miss like the times that I had, like, and a lot of times it was doing crappy stuff with the boys. Like misery loves company is a definite thing. And so getting the opportunity to revisit that again, it's pretty enjoyable.
And how familiar were you with Joko and Leif? But when you came out of the military, did you listen to their podcasts? Were you very aware of them, or was it some 2 guys that JP introduced you to, and then you realized who they were and what they were doing? What's the backstory there?
So yeah, I had no introduction to them whatsoever. I've known JP as a kid, as I said before, so that was my introduction. I knew that he was in the SEAL teams. I knew he was over in Iraq in the Battle of Ramadi, but at the time when we talked about that, I never knew who his bosses were. And even more so when I first met up with him in Arizona and he talked about Echelon Front, I honestly had no idea. And then I started to look into it, and that was like sort of a driving force for me to get out. I started to look up extreme ownership, where it came from. And then I'm reading about Leif, reading about Joko, reading about Dave, all the guys on the team. And at the time I'm sitting at my mom's house because I moved back home. I didn't have my own house. I was married. I had a 6-month-old, and I like the world around me. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I not like exploring this opportunity? And the more I dove into it, the more I was realizing I was wasting away a chance of even being able to be in the same rooms as these guys. And that was like a driving force to get me out there eventually.
And did JP just know you were the guy for the role? Because he seems to, and you've known him for years, but he stuck by you and he kept coming back and asking, what was it? Did he just want you? Did he know something that you would be perfect for the role? Or
Yeah. So I know whenever me and JP first talked, they were launching the FTX program. So launching this hands-on thing, and they were trying to figure out like JP runs, like he's the director of the program, but in terms of like his secondary or anybody else that can help with the program, like there wasn't a lot of options in the immediate. And so we were up in Michigan running a couple of the first iterations of training, and pretty much it was just like a trial. Like, okay, he's going to invite 5 of his friends, 5 of his people that he knows from the military, whoever it may be. And he's going to kind of walk the paces and see what happens. And I talked to him now, and he says it's like a test. Like, I wanted to see who was going to step up, who was going to take charge, et cetera, to fill this role. And I guess I must have caught something in his eye to where, one, not only he kept inviting me back, but number 2 was whenever we were on site there, I must have said something or did something abnormal, because he wanted me to stick around after that.
and what was your first meeting with Joko like? I mean, I've watched enough, I've listened to enough podcasts. I take it what you see online is what you get. He is all in, all action.
Yeah, it's I think the first time I ever met him was at a muster. So that's our all hands big thing like that. And so the muster is like we're getting up with everybody we're doing a 4:30 workout, but what you don't see is that the instructor staff works out beforehand. So we get up at like 3:15 and go work out at 3:30 to like walk the paces to make sure the workout's gonna work, etc. And so that was the first time I met him. Was we went to do this workout, and of course with Joko we're doing burpees. And I mean, I think he's almost 20 years older than me, and he was absolutely crushing the burpees, and I was trying to keep up. And but I mean, he's definitely an intimidating person when you see him. I'm not a big person whatsoever, but I see him or I stand next to him, I'm like, geez, like that's an intimidating individual. But as much as he's like an intimidating force and it's like we're full of him, he's a great person to be around, because he actually like wants you to be better. And he wants to support the team as best as he can. And he truly wants to like help people in the realm of leadership. And I think that's amazing to see, because it would be very easy for him to be all about himself. And sometimes you see that in the work that we do. But with him, he's all about everybody else. He wants the team to win. He wants everybody on our Extreme Ownership Academy to win. And he's all about helping the team out, which is amazing to see.
How do you look at your own career? Do you look at plans for the future, or working, who knows, will you get opportunities to take Echelon Front or your training methods in your own direction? Have you looked that far ahead, or what do you play? What do you play for every day when you turn up for work?
Man, you sound like my wife grilling me with this question. No. So yeah, I mean, starting off, I was pretty much just backside support for the FTX program. So I'm planning all the scenarios, all the logistics, all the travel, all that craziness. It's not too much. It's a lot of just administrative stuff. And over time, like I'm participating in debriefs, et cetera. And so now I'm doing a lot of like client engagement and stuff like that. And looking forward and outward, what we've talked about, especially in the last year and during COVID, is Joko and Leif identified just something that we've been not necessarily avoiding, but we haven't really gotten to the space, and that's the first responder world. And what they tasked me to do was be the coordinator for all our first responder training. And more or less what that is just trying to get Echelon Front out to all the first responders. So what we've started to do is every month we just have a free training every last Tuesday. It's with myself and another instructor, another guest from fire, from police, EMS, whatever it may be, talking through things that everyone's going through, Q&A, et cetera, and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where I'll hopefully move over to, is taking over the first responder training. And I mean, because as much as I want to be a police officer and do this full time, I know I can't do that. And so the next best thing is to work with them on a day-to-day basis, just trying to dive into the struggles that they're going through to help in some way, some manner. And who knows where that may take me. And the way I look at it too is all the stuff that we're doing here, if one cop, one firefighter, one EMS guy takes one little bit of thing and it saves someone's life or it saves their life one day, like then it's 100% worth it. I know that's like a longevity play here because you're talking maybe that's 15, maybe it's 20 years down the road, but that would be an extreme sense of fulfillment in my book.
Well, I love what you said there, that you had that dream of police enforcement and that sort of line of work, but you're going to get yourself into that world. You're maneuvering, and and people are, I don't know if it's the team or Joko or whatever, but they're identifying that that's where you will probably operate at your optimum. That's what I do here with the podcast. And say I'm asking you questions like your wife and all that sort of stuff. I'm genuinely interested in the guests that I meet and the people that I can't wait until I can properly get back out on the road. And who knows if I'll get to America or Australia and interview people face to face is where I want to take this. But it's finding people that maneuver and find ways to do what they love and to do what they want to do. Because, I mean, we're a lot of people in jobs that it's not what they love. They don't know how to find the route, or they'll just think it's not for me. I won't bother trying. And I cover that a lot. I've got a day job. I've got you could call it a 9 to 5. It's my own company, but it's not a 9 to 5. It's a whatever it takes to sort of make it work. But this journey on the podcast is the one that's changed my life, and who knows what route it will take me. It's changed my family's life with the Get After It family and the people that my kids meet. So I love that, the way you said that, it's you're getting into the world and being around the people that you thought you were going to maybe become. And if you're not, still going to be in their world. I like that. I like that a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the next best thing, as much as because I've talked about it in the past and I've talked about it with my wife as well. Like, in a perfect world, would I want to do, whether it's fire, whether it's police, and do this full time? Yes. But maybe there's like some plausible way of doing both, but it wouldn't be fair to my family as well. I'm already gone so much. And what I don't want to be is gone 365 days a year. And she's just holding down the fort by herself. Like, maybe that's sustainable for a couple months, but talking 5 years from now, our house would kind of be in a mess.
Yeah. I liked one of the posts you put out on Instagram recently, and it was about being present with the kids and your family. And actually, you must be like, your head's all over the place when you're traveling, doing your thing, coming home. Does it take a couple of days to get back into the house motion and dad life and sort of stuff to sort of come down from the events and the musters and the things you're doing?
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because my wife always jokes all the time because she'll like give me like 12 hours to like reset. Because like a lot lately we've been on the East Coast or down south. And so I'm traveling back 3 hours and I'm always like jet lagged or I'm super tired and whatnot. And then I get back to it. And what I'm honestly like, I think is going to happen, I'm going to walk in the door and she's like, hey, I'm going away for the weekend. Here's the kids because you've been gone for 2 weeks. But that's never the case. And so like somehow, some way she gives me time to unwind, which I think is needed. Otherwise, I'm kind of a mess. I'm kind of an a-hole in a sense because it takes a lot out of me, especially if I'm doing these long iterations of training. Like last month, I was in and out of the house all the time. I was home 3 days. And so when I got home, I was like, I just need a sec. I got to reset. But as soon as I'm able to, as soon as I feel like I can be my best for the kids, then I'm out, which usually a good night's sleep is all I need.
What are you like with diet and food? Are you quite consistent, or are you do you go off the rails every now and again? Please tell me you go off the rails every now and again.
Yeah, I was doing so good, and then we went on this vacation, and it was like, okay, vacation mode, time to go crazy.
Yeah.
That, I guess, in my fitness personal self, that is something I struggle with the most is proper nutrition. And one, because I was always a kid, I'm still today, like I can eat whatever I want and I like see no side effects. But what I'm seeing now is I'm missing out on a lot more opportunity because of my lack of proper nutrition. And majority of it is I don't eat enough food. And so it's funny, my wife just posted something like 30 minutes ago about she was meal prepping for me because this is something I've talked about in the past, is like this is something I need. And she knows, like, if I'm happy, she's happy. And when I don't eat enough food, I'm kind of a dick. And so she's like took it upon herself to like make it happen. So it's pretty funny to see. But yeah, I definitely lack in that. I lack, like everybody in the world. I always have those moments where I'm seeing some kind of treat because my kids they're into sweets, and I definitely have a sweet tooth, as does my wife. So it's definitely hard to try to not be the one to take the first piece of candy.
Yeah, we're chocolate and ice cream in this house. Chocolate and ice cream. That's our downfall. But hey, we try to train hard, and tomorrow's or tonight's where I get back on the train and start getting after it as much as I can. That's all it takes. But if I can ask you, please keep putting out the positive message and the training and the dad life stuff, because I get a lot from it, and I'm sure all your other followers do. I think it's brilliant. And Codey, it's been brilliant just to catch up. Really enjoy following your page.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. And as much as you say you appreciate mine, like what you put out, I think is amazing. I think more of the world needs to hear it. So whatever I can do to help get the message out about what you and your family do, feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to support.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Awesome, sir. I appreciate you.
Take care.